Hi, I'm Joe. I've been a walking tour guide for 9 years now. There's a really lovely park just to my left. Let's have a look inside it. The picture on here shows us how it did look. This black and white picture shows a water fountain that used to be in the centre of the park. This is Sackville Gardens. Although that's gone, it's still a very nice part of Manchester because it's a beautiful green space that we have in the city centre. The huge red brick building in the background is now a sixth form college. So these days you have to be between the ages of 16 and 18 to attend it. The Sheena Simon campus for the Manchester College. I attended a music course there in the 1990s, but it started off life as an all-girls high school in 1901. During the First World War, it was used for wounded soldiers, it was used as a hospital to treat the soldiers, and following this in 1920, it was a girls' school as well. Then from 1960 onwards, it was Manchester Central, so boys could attend it. Okay, firstly the bin. And in fact, on all of the bins in Manchester, you will see a bee. Yes, the bins all have bees on. If you look across the road, there's a planter, and it has bees on. It's everywhere around Manchester. Manchester was the first industrial city in the world. We were surrounded by mills and factories, with people going into work in those buildings in their hundreds. It looked like the worker bee going into their hive. Also, the plight of the workers was like the worker bee. We had to work 16 hours a day, and children as young as 6 and 7 were working in these buildings. There was no school in those days, so at the time this was seen as a negative term, as derogatory, but now people see this as a sense of pride that we work hard in this city. So the official symbol of Manchester is the bee. Let's look at this particular bee though. This bee, this decorated bee, came about because of the Bee in the City art installation of 2017. Because on the 22nd of May that year, a bomb exploded at the arena in Manchester after an Ariana Grande concert. It was a terror attack and there was 22 victims of it. Over 100 of these bees decorated Manchester. 77 of them were auctioned off at the Velodrome, and they raised over £1 million for the I Love Manchester charity. So now any artist that does a project that brings the community together can apply for grants of up to £2,000. Because this bee's in the gay village, we've got Alan Turing on the eyes, he was a gay man. We've got gay venues like Kiki, sponsors of it, and on the very front is a Stonewall, which was the very first gay pride riot in New York in 1969, and now we have gay pride all over the world. Next, let's look at this thing here, it says time for action, and it is the beacon of hope. Behind me we have the beacon of hope. This has been in the gardens since the year 2000, sculpted by Warren Chapman. It is dedicated to those that have died of AIDS and HIV. So in theory this should light up on two occasions each year. The 1st of December, which is World AIDS Day, and at the end of Gay Pride, that takes place in Manchester in the last week of August. And other than London and Brighton, it's the biggest gay pride in Britain. And in front of the Beacon of Hope, we have one of the 17 gay pride flags in Manchester, given to us by Mark Kennedy. He's a popular ceramic artist. They are all for the LGBTQIA+ community, and all the colours have different meanings. Red is for life, orange is for healing, yellow is for sunlight, green is for nature, sky blue is for serenity, and the darker blue is for harmony. There's another one of these in front of the Alan Turing Memorial, so let's go and look at that. This is Alan Turing. There's a film called Imitation Game, and the role of him is played by Benedict Cumberbatch, an alumni from the University of Manchester. Alan Turing himself was always very eccentric, because on the top panel it says Alan Matheson Turing, 1912 to 1954. In 1924, a general strike was called. This meant there was no buses or trains running, and it was the day before he started boarding school, which was 60 miles away. That's 60 miles, or about 95 kilometres away. Most other 11-year-olds might say, I can't get to school. Alan cycled 30 miles, he stayed at an inn halfway there, and he cycled another 30 miles in the morning, and he got to school on time. The second panel, those random letters are Enigma code, and it spells out founder of computer science. A Polish team had managed to crack the code, but it changed every single 24 hours, so the chances of him cracking it in time were about 1 in 300 billion, but he managed it. And on the front it says father of computer science, and a mathematician as well. Alan Turing has given us the first computers of sorts, and without him we would not have artificial intelligence. Lots of debates these days. Some people say it's gone too far, but it looks like we've got it forever. After helping bring an end to the Second World War, Alan was living in Hale, which is still a nice part of Greater Manchester, and he was looking into morphogenesis right next door at the university. The authorities discovered that he was a gay man, and in Britain in 1952 that was illegal. They gave him a choice, and it was to go to prison for 2 years or to take estrogen injections. In other words, to be chemically castrated. Alan chose the injections because he was a workaholic, but they had side effects. It meant that he grew breasts, he lost powers of concentration, and depression was another symptom. In the end, he bit an apple filled with cyanide. That's how he died, and we thought it might have been suicide at the time. But some of his family are trying to get this reinvestigated. They're asking if the authorities have directly killed him. That's a clear possibility. Maybe it was simply a lapse of concentration. He was working with cyanide, and he was known for not always washing his hands. It's less likely, but still possible. Or maybe he was hiding the fact that he was committing suicide, which was also a criminal offence at the time in Britain. That sounds bizarre, but let's imagine somebody who tried to take a drug overdose and failed. They would have ended up in prison. And every night in front of his mother, before he went to bed, he would eat an apple, so maybe he was disguising it. Some people think that Steve Jobs created the iPhone symbol and the Apple Mac symbol as a nod to Alan. That would make sense because it is a bit an apple. But a few things about Steve Jobs. Number one, he worked on apple farms in his summer breaks. Number two, he was a big fan of the Beatles, and that band set up a record label called Apple. And number three, just like Alan, he was logical, and Atari were number one. Just about alphabetically, Apple comes before Atari. Steve Jobs wanted to surpass them, and he clearly succeeded. This bronze statue has been here since the 23rd of June, which would have been his birthday, 2001. And it was built in China at a cost of £15,000. Some people say you get what you pay for, because if you look at the photograph of him, it doesn't look identical. In fact, it could be just about anybody in the world. Maybe they were mass produced. Alan Turing was a gay man, and as I mentioned before, we've got 17 gay pride flags in Manchester, so obviously it makes sense to have one standing in front of him as well. Okay, we hope you've enjoyed our mini tour of Manchester. Hopefully we'll see you on the full length version of the walking tour very soon.